Okay, I saw something very horrific, and unfortunately it affected someone I care about. Let's watch.
Originally, we thought electrons orbit atoms like this.
See that in atomic symbols everywhere to this day.
Electrons don't really orbit anything. They just exist around the atom in vibrational
No.
state. Let's say that this ring is an electron that surrounds the nucleus of an atom. But notice something here. I can increase the energy by turning up the frequency of vibration, but suddenly the resonance goes away and it just looks like a normal ring again. But then suddenly if I keep increasing it...
This is one of the best explanations of this I've ever seen.
Unfortunately, it's 1,000,000,000% stupid and 100% wrong. I don't know how to explain those numbers, but here's how I can explain electrons. Okay, so let's say that you had a set of cars on a roundabout and you recorded them from above in a helicopter, for example. And you have a slow-mo camera. No, that doesn't work. You recorded them for like 10,000 years, and then you sped up the footage. Or whatever, I don't care, whatever. An electron literally goes 2,200 kilometers per freaking second. That's fast. I've explained that before. What does that mean in relation to an atom? An atom is 10 to the minus 1,000 meters. Or 1,000,000 meters or something? What is it? It's small. So if you really think about it, they're not just moving around at 10,000 rotations per second. They're moving around at more like millions or billions of rotations per second. That's extremely fast. Near the speed of light in a very tiny frame. So the reason why he's saying it's vibrational states is because he doesn't understand how fast they're going. And unfortunately, he explains it like a freaking ribbon. I don't know about you, but an electron is not a ribbon. It is a particle. We can slow it down and find its quantized state. A particle. We can shoot it out of a railgun, and guess what? It's a particle. It's a dot. It's not a ribbon. Right? You have this explanation in here, and unfortunately you're influencing one of my favorite people.
The best explanations of this I've ever seen. Yeah.
It's 100% wrong.
Yes, they only show up in these discrete, quantized orbital regions.
And then another...
Yeah, but also you can totally make them into an individual tiny particle. They show up as a little area compared to the entire thing. And you know why they fluctuate so much? Is because they're circling that electron is circling the atom so much that the tiny defects in the atom change how much it's pulled towards the atom a very tiny amount. You go it that fast and you'd be deviated that much, you're going to be going all over the place. You'll have a probability of where you'll go, but it's not probability. If you slow it down, if you slow down that footage over 1,000,000 times per second slower, you'd be able to see the electron moving. And you'd see it go in a goddamn orbit.
Higher mode here. The ring doesn't vibrate unless I give it some specific energy input.
Now you can take these electrons out by shining light at it. So to get the ones at the
I like that he actually mentions the quantized state. This is why I like this guy, and I don't like the other guy because he does things wrong. But Tyler False is really, he's decent. Yeah.
States toward the center of these, you need high energy light, like X-rays or gamma rays.
Originally, we thought
So I'm really pissed off about this short. Not the short. I'm pissed off about this guy. I think it's the Action Lab. Yes, this motherfucker. If I'm not mistaken, it's this motherfucker. This guy pisses me off. Yes, him. He pisses me off so much. There is so much science miscommunication done from this channel. Besides that one thing about electrons, I don't know what even to talk about, and I would love to make a reaction to literally every one of his videos and say, did you get a passing grade or did you fail to communicate the truth about science? And I will tell you the truth. I will tell you how it really works. Like, the problem is, the reason why I stopped watching these videos is because a lot of his stuff is bunk. A lot of it is bunk. A lot of it is bunk. A goddamn too much of it is bunk. And I don't want to expose myself to it anymore. But I realize that if I make a reaction to it, it's easy for everyone else to maybe learn from it. The problem is I don't make a great representation. I don't, show people the proper understandings that they should have and give emphasis like he did with the words and emphasis words of quantum and that. But yes, of course, we know from the double-slit experiment you can have quantum particles, which are the very tiny electrons. They are a tiny little bar magnet, little dot that goes around an atom. They are definitely not stupid little rings. They definitely are not just wiggling. They are moving. The reason why you have electrons that are seen in all those patterns, and yet they are a tiny little dot, the only way they could form those patterns is because they literally are in all of those same spaces every second. And if you slow it down enough, with a sensor fast enough that you could actually see it, you'd be able to see where the electron is moving to. And yeah, just like a regular orbital pattern is not... It's like if you look at the orbit of a planet around the sun and the sun around the galaxy. It has patterns that are similar. The pattern of the solar system around the galaxy is a wave. It's going up and down all over the place. It's not being just in a straight line around the galaxy, and we're not in a straight line around the sun. It's wavy too. And all of that. So why wouldn't the quantum realm also do that? It's just bad science at this point. And it frustrates me so much. So much. I want people to understand. I want to teach people science the way it actually is. I want them to get it. I would love for everyone who teaches science to know what the hell they're talking about before they talk, and actually have, I know, I just made a clock that has a 24 5-to-1 ratios in screwdrivers, and the game didn't explode. All of you at home will understand a 5-to-1 ratio is a multiplier. It goes from 5 to 1. 2 of them is 25 to 1. And so on. I made a 5 quadrillion to 1 ratio. It goes extremely slow. But for some reason, of course, that is very far beyond its bounding of like a million or whatever, and it literally broke the game and was like, nope, the speed is going to be the same for literally everything. And that's why my clock doesn't work. I can screw up sometimes, but I can also pretty much easily tell you why. I analyze things. I do the scientific method. I'm like, wait a second, hold on. How do gear ratios work? Are they additive or are they multiplicative? Why would they be additive? Because you're taking something that is 1, you're turning it into 5. That's multiplying. It's actually an 8 to 40 ratio, which is reduced to 5 to 1, but that's not the point. It has 40 teeth, there are 8. You can't make it 1 gear, teeth, gear. It doesn't work. But you can have an 8 and a 40, and you call it 5 to 1 because that's the ratio, that's the numbers reduced. Anyway, I'm tired. I don't like this channel. I don't like that entire channel. I don't like it.
Originally, we thought
Get the ones at the quantized states toward the center of these, you need high energy light like X-rays or gamma rays.
Originally, we thought.
Yeah, so I made a couple of comments saying, you know what? No, this guy is completely wrong about his assumption about how electrons are, because you have to question. You can't just question like, oh, they're just going wiggly, 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 being pushed closer and further away from the atom. Okay, that would almost make sense, unless you realize that sometimes the pattern that you see is a goddamn blur circle. Where is that pattern? Let me see if I see it on the fucking diagram bullshit. Where is there it is, the diagram bullshit. This thing shows you these orbital patterns that sometimes it can be in these ways, and sometimes it is.
They just exist around the atom in a vibrational state. Let's say that this ring.
No, just no. I hate it. I hate it. Like, I hate time. I actually hate this. Okay, listen. Time dilation is complicated, but it's not. And I already figured out and debunked time dilation. This is a totally different level of ineptitude, because you can't just say a particle is doing something different, because you have to understand, one, what is the form of the particle in the first place? Doing an example of a goddamn wiggly, wobbly circle like this only makes sense if the goddamn thing you're trying to represent is a circle. But the electrons are not circles. They make a little time bar magnet. It's basically like a tube, or it's like a sphere that has a tube through it. The electrons go through electromagnetic fields. The fields go through in a pattern that is like a torus. So it has a constant velocity, right? And it's on such a small scale with such little anything else in its way that it literally is able to go as fast as near the freaking speed of light. I don't know how fast 22,000 kilometers per second is when you change it to nanoscopic scales. But it's goddamn fast. 1 second. Okay, an atom is 1 nanometer small, which means it's 10 to the 10th meters. So if you go back to the 2200 kilometers per second, or 2200 kilometers per second, and a kilometer is 1,000 meters, you realize it's going 2.2 million meters per second, which means it's actually, if you really want to look at it in scientific terms, you gotta multiply it by another 10 to the 10th in order to get the true, it's going that many of that per second. Whatever the hell that is. And what is 10 to the 10th plus 10 to the 6th? It's 10 to the 16th. So there you go. Whatever that number is per second. 10 to the 16th nanometers per second. That's how fast electrons are moving. Or of course you could just say 2.2 million meters per second. Again, it's compared to the speed of light going at 300 million meters per second. The 2.2 is like is it 150? Or it's either 100 or 150 times slower. Or 100, yeah, times slower than light. It's not slow at all. It's extremely fast. It's extremely blisteringly fast. That's why every second in that nanometer, they're like, ten to the 16th power is 10 to the 16th power. Wow, dumbass. What's a word for that? Okay, there's the number you're going to look at, which is otherwise known as 10 quadrillion. Okay, so they're moving 10 quadrillion nanometers per second. If you don't think that's fast, imagine it was 10 quadrillion meters per second and you're a person going around 100 meters. You're still going 1 quadrillion decameters per second, or whatever. You would be a blur. Electrons are faster than the goddamn Flash. So, kind of. Electrons are the reason the Flash is as fast as he is. Anyway, the point is, there you have it. Why 10 to the 16th? Because it's 2.2 kilometers, or it's 2.2 million meters, because a kilometer is already 1,000, so it's 1,000, so it's a million. There you go. Whatever. I don't think anyone has ever talked about it's literally like 10 quadrillion nanometers per second. There's no way that you can't, like, if you're that fast and that small of an area, you can definitely be in 10 quadrillion places in a second. You're gonna look like a goddamn giant blur. Unless your trajectory is perfect, which it's not for an electron. That's why it's a wobbly blur that takes up weird shapes and stuff. I am so upset about this. This is like... Remember that guy who talked about a car going faster than the wind? This bitch. Some idiot scientist made a freaking bet of $10,000 that this car can't go faster than the wind. Not only can you easily go faster than the wind, I assumed you can't go faster than twice the speed of the wind. And the reason for that is that the moment that you start going as fast as the wind, your propeller thing is basically being able to pull as fast as the wheels are able to translate the power of the earth towards you. Because you're being pushed towards the earth, and the wheels are translating that power to the propeller. It's a gigantic propeller, right? If you had a higher ratio, a higher propeller, a higher whatever else, you might be able to, it might not be more efficient. But the point is, it's a giant propeller. You move with, at one point you're moving with the wind, like a sail, and the other moment you're basically propelling yourself. And the faster you go, you can go a certain speed, but the thing is, the moment the wind stops helping you as much, the moment that initial speed goes to a low point, you're probably going to reach around 1.5 times the speed of the wind if it's able to push you up to that speed in the first place at all. So the moment you go like 20 kilometer an hour wind, you're good. You're going to go 30 kilometers an hour with that wind using this car. That's easy. The guy who thought of math, science, as a goddamn institute science person bet $10,000 that it wouldn't happen because he's dumb. That's why. And also, to make a point, that willing to state $10,000 on this. It's either wrong or it's right. And it was proven right because freaking duh. I wager $10 million. No, $10 trillion. Time dilation is a fucking lie. Screw it. Go to the moon with the bet. I don't care. I bet anyone $10 trillion that time dilation is 100% a hoax designed by people who don't think things through. The only thing that's happening with time, when you go on a satellite with an atomic clock, okay, the thing that happens, because light is a constant speed, okay, no matter how fast you're going, it will stay going the same speed because you're not influencing the speed of light. It doesn't matter if you're on the ground, it doesn't matter if you're on the train. Light is measured as going the same speed. Inside the train, outside the train, all of it, it doesn't matter. Light just goes at the same speed. Right? But the difference is, the train is going at a speed. So when you think of the atomic clock experiments, you think of the speed and the distance light had to travel to keep up with the atomic clock was different in the other experiments than if it's just stationary, for example, on the Earth. On the Earth, the light is moving along with the rotation of the Earth. We compensate for that. We call it zero. It's not zero. It's with this rotation, moving against the rotation of the Earth, light is actually moving less because the rotation makes it move further forward sooner. If you go backwards, it's actually going to go against the distance that you would have to travel, the light would have to travel. And if you go with the rotation of the Earth, you are increasing the amount of space that light has to travel. Because literally it's the same thing as walking forward or backwards on a train. You're considered to be moving still if you're moving backwards on the train and the train's moving forward, if you're going at the same rate as the train. And if you're going forward on the train at the same rate as the train, your total speeds add up. The distance you've traveled in the same second has doubled. That's why time dilation, if you change the speed, and also it matters the direction you're going compared to the orbit of the Earth, and you're still on the Earth, like relative to that, you're going to be having an increase of the time it takes for the light to get there, meaning a longer tick, meaning the clock is going to be slower if you're going with the rotation of the Earth, and faster if you're going against the rotation of the Earth. That's because the orbit is not a stationary clock. It's an orbit synchronized clock. Stationary doesn't exist. Everything is moving. So you're negating speed by the 100 kilometers an hour the plane was going, or whatever, in the 1970s. It doesn't matter about the accuracy of a lot of the things. It matters, and that was pretty accurate. The point is, they didn't compensate for the fact that their speed and the Earth's speed either added or subtracted from each other, and that's what made for the less distance of the light traveling going one way, the more light distance going the other way. And I thought it was something else, but apparently it was just the distance of it. So yeah, time dilation doesn't exist. It is a false nomer. The reason I say time dilation doesn't exist and why it's important is because people have used the idea of time dilation existing to say such a thing as the curving of space-time. There is no such thing as the curving of space-time. That is a false understanding. It doesn't work like that. We have made false models of gravity. We've made false models of the way a black hole would work, how time would work for a person in a satellite, how old you will be versus someone on the Earth, versus someone who went at the speed near the 86% the speed of light, or whatever, 86.6% the speed of light, because at that point, your delta equals double for some reason. So you experience what? Time dilation, so that your time is actually experienced half as much or twice as much. It doesn't change. The point is, it doesn't change. It's a hoax. It's a misunderstanding of science. It's bad math. It's people not checking their homework. It's dumbasses. NASA being a dumbass. It's Einstein being misunderstood. He said time doesn't change no matter the observer. So if he had the idea, unfortunately, that time dilation was a thing, I'm sorry to tell you, Einstein, sorry bro, you fucked up. You fucked up an entire generation of people. I'm just getting started. People don't even know about Stirling engines. And I mention that because the basic premise of a Stirling engine to a layman doesn't make any difference. Why does it matter? And there was something about buoyancy I talked about a different time. It's because these things should be understood. And for some people who are working in the Navy, working scuba diving and whatever else, You would think they would have to understand how buoyancy works. Buoyancy just doesn't only pertain to the size you are or how heavy you are. It matters about both of those things and as well your total density. You can weigh a certain amount, sure, but a kilogram of, say, air compressed into the size of a pellet is going to be denser, and your total mass distribution is different than if you put that same air into a balloon. It's going to take up more space, and it would basically not even press down on the boat as much, and other stuff. I go into detail in all these other topics in other videos. I think about these things so much detail. Like, I can't believe someone can get something wrong as much as electrons, but people have gotten the double-slit experiment wrong so many times. Electromagnetism is a fluid. Electromagnetism is a goddamn, it's everywhere, it's a fluid. It's everywhere. So that's why it doesn't matter where you are. If you have the coils of copper and you start them moving, they move the electromagnets, which are the electrons, in their copper lattice. That also ends up making a bump that makes the energy in the wires move as well. If it's connected to something else that can have the rest of it move. And the pulse things, it's like you don't even have, it's not the electrons that are moving the electricity. I've heard that also. It's the energy itself, the electromagnetic field, which is not the electrons themselves. That is only a very tiny fraction of it, but the pulses of electromagnetism are what make electricity work, not the electrons. So there's that. So, how many components are in electricity? There's how fast, how dense, and I guess whether it's AC or DC. Because with one format, you can have it be less reactive. AC is way more reactive. Direct is only able to push as far as it's able to push. Once you stop having a place for it to push to, it's kind of done. But AC is wobbly. It's a push-pull. It's constantly trying to jab in the thing, is what it kind of looks like, or something. So it's not as simple as a straight just water against a bridge or something. You put a plug in it and whatever. It's like a jackhammer, which is crazy. And I don't know why I'm talking about all this. I should be going to sleep. Oh, right. Motherfucker and electrons and the fucking pissed off at the whatever the good, whatever the... Where the fuck am I? Why am I on Facebook?
Don't really orbit anything. They just exist away, and it just looks like a normal specific energy input.
Now you can take these electrons out by shining light at it. So to get the ones at the quantized states toward the center of these, you need high energy light, like X-rays.
Yeah, so again, electrons are quantized particles. They are tiny little dots. They flow electromagnetism through it. With the double-slit experiment, you're shooting the electron, but the electromagnetic field is being pushed by the electron, excited by the fact that the electron is moving for the first part, making the energy waves make those ripples, and then the electron goes into those areas based on the ripples, just as much as a little grain of rice or whatever would go through only those specific frequency nodes where it's being pushed on basically both sides, so it can only go in one of those channels where the ripples constructively interfere, or destructively interfere, I should say. You end up with these straight lines and stuff. I don't know what the fuck I'm trying to explain it as best I can. That's why the double slit experiment is so freaking, like, I don't know why they explain it as it's behaving like a wave. It's never behaved like a wave. They are two separate things. There's the particle and the electromagnetism. Separate things. An electromagnet doesn't even move electrons. It moves the electromagnetic field, which are not electrons. If it was moving electrons, it would be a particle field. Which is way more dangerous, by the way. It's ionizing radiation is what it turns out to be. If you do that. So don't do that. Whatever. Bye. Thank God there wasn't any porn on the fucking... God damn it. Facebook isn't safe. Bye.